What's up, Backflow Broskis? It's your boy, the Backflow Bro. Today we're going to go over the USC 10th edition test procedures utilizing a three hose, 2-valve kit. If you're checking out our other test procedures, there is an ASSE single hose for the RP. A lot of people East Coast do that. If you're going West Coast, or if you're in the middle, or you're like kind of West Coast, a lot of times they require the 3 hose with the USC 10th edition procedures. USC 10th edition is University of Southern California. It's one of their manuals. It's a little, I guess, it kind of like has a little less user error. The USC test procedure, or the ASSE test procedures, excuse me, American Society of Sanitary Engineering, they require a little more knowledge. There's a little more finesse required. USC I like a lot because it's hard to screw up. If you do everything perfect, everything's perfect. Whereas the ASSE, you kind of gotta make sure everything's perfect yourself. It doesn't really explicitly list the nuances of the test. If you're doing an ABPA exam or an AWWA exam, there's California, Nevada, AWWA. If you're doing anything New England or East Coast, it's probably not the procedures you want. If you want to check out our West Coast stuff, we have different videos. We have a program, West Coast, California, and other areas. Check out those videos. They're more specific to what you're looking for. But if you're just curious about the USC 10th edition, definitely check out our video. There is a more abridged version where it's just the procedures. If you check out in the description, you can kind of see this. This is more like the extended commentary of how the test procedures work and everything. USC, they have a 2, 3, or 5-valve version for the RP. All of the other ones are the same. We're utilizing the Kruger Instruments TK-2. They're pretty popular West Coast. They're more popular East Coast. But the 2-valve arrangement's pretty much established over there. You have 2 bleed-offs. High bleed and low bleed. It's marked on the gauge high and low side. If you're taking an AWWA exam in California specifically, they actually don't accept the test kits. Don't buy one and go to their exam. You can borrow one from somebody, it's probably fine. If you go to the local counties, they almost always accept our test kit. We submitted them and everything. The accuracy and the construction, totally good with USC. I had some trouble getting it where they wouldn't review the application to get the USC 9th edition procedures. If you want a USC 10th edition test kit that's approved and everything, you really got to go digital. A lot of the things are digital over there now. Arbiter, Backflow, good program. Check out our West Coast videos. A lot of them are with the Arbiter. It's a digital test kit. You also might be able to use the Midwest ones. There's a few different versions with them. We'll go over all the different test procedures in these videos. Definitely click around the channel, like, subscribe. You'll probably find something a little more based on what you're working with in your test class. If you're watching this video, you're probably in some kind of class. If you are, we do testing classes also, particularly in California, but also in other areas. It's Kruger's Training Academy, they call it. I call it. I'm Kruger, I'm Dustin Kruger. But anyway, we'll just go through the whole thing. This is USC 10th edition, not to be confused with anything East Coast. Usually it's ASSE. The USC is kind of popular further south on the East Coast. Or they might have abridged versions, or Florida has a program, UF Trio. They're pretty popular. But anyway, we'll just go through the USC test procedures. For USC, first thing, before you do anything, notify, identify, inspect, observe. The proctors, if you're taking an exam, might say who are you notifying? What are you observing? You should probably read the book. If you're in a class and you haven't read the book, open the book. They usually give you a book in the class. But there is actually people you're notifying or things you're observing. Next step, open your test cocks. Open 4, open 3, open 2, You don't want to spray everybody at the class. Open them a little bit. You don't have to open them all the way. Open 1, close 1, close 2, close 3, close 4. Some of the other test procedures they'll have you do it a different way. For USC, they want you to go 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. The reason you do that is to not jump the relief valve. It's possible to jump the relief valve during the test. You jump it and then you test it. Technically, you kind of tested it after it was jumped, so you want to get the reading while the valve in its perfect condition in the field, which is probably like it's been sitting there for a year and nobody's messed with it. If it has dumped before, that's good, but it's probably been a few months. You don't want to dump it and then test when it dumps, because it might actually dump at a lower value than you thought it would, or if it was already dumped. Close all your needle valves. So for the 2-valve kit, you just have 2, so you close high and close low. Install appropriate fittings. For our test kit, they already have the fittings. This is a Watts, so they kind of come with it. You might have it where it's a 3/4 or 1/2 inch, and you got to put in adapters. Some proctors, they say like, I'm installing my fittings. Some proctors don't care. If you're in a spot where they want that, then you should probably do that. Attach high hose to 2. Low hose to 3. And your bypass should be on your low bleed, so on the right side if you're using a 2-valve kit. Generally, they're left to right. I think you might find one that isn't. Some of the old school ones with the bellows and all that, they might have it where it's like upside down sometimes. We do have a line pressure kit. If you're watching our older videos, we have like an older version. This is a Kruger Instruments TK-2, newest version. We have a end of line pressure hose, so you don't have to bleed the test cocks, and we have a line pressure gauge in order to record the line pressure. So you attach everything. For USC, they want you to bleed water through the test kit. So you open low, or open test cock 3, open low bleed, or that's high bleed, sorry. Open low bleed. This also flushes your bypass. Open test cock 2, open high bleed. While everything's running and open, you close shut off 2. Then you close your high bleed first. It's important to close your high bleed first because these gauges are descending scale. So they're accurate going down, they're not accurate going up. Close your low bleed second. It drops down. That's your apparent reading, 7.2. That's some people ask you to record that. Generally for USC, you don't record it, but it's just kind of like a thing. It's like a step where you acknowledge that's your apparent. Now the first step for USC is you hook your bypass hose to the high side of your gauge. You already bled it, meaning you had your low bleed open and then it went through. So there's already water in the hose. Then you open your high bleed, slowly open low bleed. The maximum's a 1/4 turn. If you have to go up more than a 1/4 turn, there's a good chance your shutoff is leaking. So you really want to do it kind of slightly, maximum 1/4 turn. Pressure drops, put your hand under the vent. I got a reading here, 3.6, and it's barely dripping on the relief valve. That's your relief valve opening point. You want to get the point at which it opens. If you open this all the way, you notice it's spraying, and you got 3.2, a little lower. That's not the correct reading. You want to get the reading when it opens. Close both bleed valves. Detach bleed valve from the low side. And then you're doing a tightness of number 2 check. Attach your bypass hose to test cock 4. Open and close low bleed. That resets your gauge. If you notice your gauge, after you did the relief valve opening point, it'll actually stick a little close to when you relief valve open. My gauge is reading 4.9. So that's actually not the correct reading. The reason is these analog kits, if you're not doing digital, like a lot of people do at West Coast, you have it's only accurate going down. It's accurate to zero plus or minus 0.2 psi, but only going down. If it's going up, it's not accurate. So you open and close your low bleed, it goes up, then it goes down. 7.3 is what I'm reading. Then you, if it does not drop, so you open test cock 4, then you open high bleed. You notice it dropped a little bit, but it didn't continue dropping. If you have a leaky check valve 2, it'll continue dropping all the way to the bottom. If you have a tight check valve 2, it'll hold, but it goes down a little bit. So this is 6.4 now. You don't record the 6.4. You only record that the shutoff or the check valve 2 is tight. If you need to do a differential pressure test across check valve 2, some of the auxiliary test procedures that we have on our videos and things, specifically if you're in Florida, they require that a lot. Georgia requires it. If you're out west, they don't require it. If you're back east, super east, like northeast, they usually don't require it. Sometimes they might. If they do, you have auxiliary test procedures that will do. For the USC, they don't require it. So you just kind of like open and close low bleed. Test 5, they call it, or test 3, tighten some number 1 check. Open and close low bleed. Whatever it drops down to, that's your check valve 1 reading. So I'm getting 7.6. The idea here is test cock 2's open, test cock 4's open, and your high bleed's open. So if shutoff 2 leaks, it's gonna leak through the gauge on the high side. So you're not actually, you don't really even need to test shutoff 2. Some of the ASSC procedures on our other videos, you can check that out. They'll test shutoff 2, and if shutoff 2 leaks, you gotta replace it. For the USC, they don't. So if shutoff 2 leaks, you actually don't really care. If it leaks a lot, you have some auxiliary procedures. We'll go through that in the diagnostics portion of what we're doing. This particular test is just the basic test. So when you open and close, you get your check valve 1 reading, and actually you're done. So for USC 10th edition, you would say you're done. 7.6 is your reading. So you go ahead and shut the test cocks, remove equipment. For USC, they want you to open the outlet shut off. For some of the other ones, they say restore to pre-test conditions. So like ASSC, if you show up and the shut off's closed, they don't want you to open it. For USC, I guess they assume it's always going to be open. So you go ahead and open it. If you're in the field and you're doing the USC and it's closed when you get there, you might want to not open it. You never know what's downstream of it. That's the USC 10th edition. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, please take a second to like and subscribe. Comment any questions. Usually, like, people look at the question, or they'll look at the comments and they go, oh, like, that was my question too, and they see the answer. But feel free to like and subscribe and comment. And thank you for joining us. This is Kruger Instruments.